Today on The Real Fan Review, we're going over our thoughts on Jordan Peele's Us, our thoughts on the horror movie genre, the latest news, and we're also getting ready for Shazam.
And Hav and Sanj report on their homework assignments.
What's going on, podcasters and YouTubers? This is Hav with The Real Fan Review. Today we got a great conversation going. We got 6 guys here that love watching movies. We got my man Sanj to the right.
Hello, everyone.
We got my boy Ree here for the first time. What's going on, Ree?
Yeah, hey, how's it going, everybody?
We got Al, man in the chair.
What's going on, everybody?
We got Misha.
Hello.
And my man on the sound, my brother B.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And we just want to thank you for joining us today. And as always, we always ask for your subscribes, your following on us on either iTunes, on the iPod. If you're on YouTube, you can follow us there or subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you can, give us a like, give us a thumbs up. We're on Facebook, Instagram, at The Real Fan Review. And again, it's a play on words, which is REEL, Real Fan. So The Real Fan Review. And like I said, today we're just going to go over a couple of things. But I know last week we left off with a March Madness. That is just a contest that went crazy. And in the midst of that challenge, I know there was a great movie that I missed out on called Braveheart. And I just want to let you guys know I did end up watching it last night. And wow, I feel so silly, so ridiculous for missing out on that movie. That movie touched me. I mean, I would think 15 minutes in when it was the girlfriend that he was in love with, that he secretly married, and took the knife to the throat. I couldn't even believe it, and then it just went all downhill from there.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, big time. I think I was the only one that didn't see that movie. So.
The girl dies.
But what a great movie. The ending was very emotional, very just, I could nothing else I could say but just wow. You know, fighting for freedom, fighting for something that means something to you. And as old as that movie is, when did that movie come out? That movie's what? Because you guys all saw this movie a long time ago. 90s. Mel Gibson, classic Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
And let me tell you guys, if you haven't seen that movie, it holds up still. It's great. It's fantastic. I'm glad I watched it, and I know why why it was in the top 64 there of movies. If I had known that movie was that good, it would have been a higher up ranking. It was just absolutely crazy. Let's see here. Sanj, how was your weekend, man? You caught up on any movies?
I did catch up on movies. I did my homework assignment. I saw John Wick. Woo. And
What'd you think of it?
Wow. from just the jump, like the dude, like it's all headshots, and even when he's doing stuff and it's personal, it's like it's business, and he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a good story. I like that. They had the assassins had their own like secret society. They had their code that they followed.
Was it the hotel, right? The
hotel.
Yeah.
And then all the different code words for everything. We're sorry for last night's like last night's inconvenience. And they give him like a brand new Dodge Charger. And to do everything, you have to put a gold coin in a slot. My favorite part of the movie, like, I need a dinner reservation for 12. And I'm like, dinner reservation? Like, you just killed all these people. And like, oh, and then the guy shows up to click. Oh, okay. A dinner reservation. Okay.
Yeah. So when are you gonna see 2?
This week.
All right. Well, listen, John Wick. Like I told you guys last week, John Wick 2 to me wasn't as good as John Wick 1, but it still was a pretty good movie.
They didn't have to kill the dog though. Like that. Like, why did they?
That
kill
set the tone.
Yeah.
Set the tone.
Spoiler alert.
Oh man, and this is my boy Ree. He's another one of us that goes out to the movies on those Thursday nights. Again, like San said in the first podcast there, we did Transformers, we did Matrix, we did Spider-Mans, the Tobey Maguire ones.
The horrible ones.
You know, we did the midnight showings on those, and thank God they moved them to 7 o'clock now. So my man Reed, introduce yourself.
Oh.
And you know, we told people in our first podcast our top 3 movies. What are your top 3 movies?
Oh man, that's tough. So I would say 3 is probably Matrix.
Okay.
And
any Matrix 1 or the Matrix series or one of them in particular?
Matrix 1, you always got to go with the original. The sequels in the Matrix series were well done, but I liked 1. It just
changed the game.
It changed the game, filming style, and what they were doing, graphic effects. I listened to your first podcast, and I heard Al talk about the Matrix, and it just brought back a lot of memories.
All right.
And I was like, and you saw some of those styles take effect to a lesser degree in some of the Blade movies that we saw that came out later on. And I was like, oh, they stole a lot of this stuff, and they did it worse. It was kind of bad that they did it worse than the original, but I was like, no, it was really good up there. I loved Scarface because of the quotables.
Is that
I don't know,
2?
yeah, huh?
Yeah, that number 2.
Yeah, I would put Scarface 2, quotables for sure. And interestingly enough, I would probably put my favorite movie that I can watch over and over again without thinking about it is The Hangover. And not for I'm a big comedy guy. I love comedies.
It's one of those sarcasm sometimes.
Yeah, and it's one of those movies where I guess it's one of those movies that are easy for me to watch.
Right.
It's not a lot. Obviously, there's not a lot of content there. But I can have it running all day long and just catch 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes at a time and be fully satisfied comedic wise.
Right.
And I can walk away and come back. The Mike Tyson scene. The scene where he has the kid, the scene where he just walks into the hotel and asks if this is the real Caesar's Palace. Do they have phone banks? I mean, I don't know. It's like I said, it's probably low on a lot of people's list, but I just think
it's hard.
I think
it's a very personal thing, you know.
I just think it's
top 3.
It's something that
personal.
I can. All the other movies, there's a lot of movies that you can probably watch and you have to watch and you sit there and it's captivating.
Right.
This is one of those movies where it's like easy listening radio, elevator music, where I can have it in the background and I can walk in on it and enjoy myself for a while, walk away and come back to it. So I would say that's probably number 1, just strictly for the comedic effects.
Yeah. You know what? We probably have to do that one day. We probably get all our favorite comedies. Maybe not do a top 64. You know, that took like 2 hours. But maybe our top 3 comedies or something. We'll do a episode on that there. What's going on with you, man? How you doing?
Pretty good. This weekend I finally caught Aquaman.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
The story wasn't as strong as I thought it was going to be because when you hear the sales and tickets and everything that it was doing worldwide, it was better than Justice League and all the other movies. But story, I think it relied on him too much.
Yeah.
You know, in that sense that obviously it's Aquaman, so the movie's going to revolve around him. But I think it relied on what's his name, Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa as an actor too much.
Right.
You had Amanda Beard, and even her presence was strong, but they made her character too comedic. Yeah, they made her with the red hair, which was way too red, and she's eating roses and stuff like that. So I was they made her. I don't know. They relied on him as an actor too much. And not to take away from him, he held the movie. I finished it.
What do you think of the Black Manta there?
You know what? Not knowing much about Aquaman and his enemies and everything, I thought it was pretty good.
Right.
You know, I think it was a little weak the way they didn't explain how he was able to adapt the Atlantis technology. And modify it and change it and take it apart. They said, "Look, we just made this. This is cutting edge technology for us, but here." And then he breaks it apart, spray paints it and everything. And
but we accept it wholeheartedly, freely when Bruce Wayne weaponizes kryptonite in 20 minutes.
But that's Batman. See, that's Batman.
I'm just asking.
Batman takes a ninja star in the shape of a bat, and somehow that thing works. So we got to give him some leeway. But I just found it odd that the guy who's a pirate and stealing knew how to adapt that technology and But it was crazy the way they adapted it for the movie. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, when I watched Aquaman, I think it was Sanj. We all saw it together.
We all saw it together, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool, but I'll just say I thought for as much stuff that they give Justice League, I think Justice League was a better movie than Aquaman. And Aquaman made $1 billion somehow in the box office, but it's making money out there. Misha, what's going on, man? What's like the top 3 movies for you? Like what?
Top 3? Oh man, I don't know. Probably third is probably Saving Private Ryan. Yeah. I remember that being a pretty good movie.
That was also in our top 64.
Nice. And then The Matrix, just because that was like groundbreaking on the cinematography as well as just like the concept of the movie. Mm-hmm. And number 1. I mean, I don't have a number 1, but I had to pick something right now. Probably like The Watchmen.
Oh,
that was like the alternative choice. And what's his name? Mr. Manhattan, Dr. Manhattan was he's the ultimate superhero. There's no one.
Destroyed everything.
Yeah, he can control matter. So
yeah, that's pretty much it.
And also again the underlying themes were really good. Like most of the action movies are kind of just like beat 'em up, explosions, whatever. But they're dealing with like, is this guy even a hero? Like what was his name? The one who had raped the other teammate, and so like the concepts were deep. But it was still comic book.
At that time, it was very deep.
Yeah.
I think that and Kick-Ass kind of changed the game a little bit, made it a little more serious. But you know what? You two guys were in here last week. We did this March Madness thing. We got stuck on 2 movies and we couldn't choose which one was our better one because we only had the 4 of us. And we got stuck between The Dark Knight and Schindler's List. So like, if you had to choose between those 2, Misha, Schindler's List and The Dark Knight, which one would you have chosen between those 2? The
Dark Knight.
Sandra
and I were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's biased. I haven't watched Schindler's List in who knows how long. But it's one of those movies where like everyone's like, yeah, it's a great movie because it's about the Holocaust. It's really heavy subject matter. And who's going to talk shit about that movie if they didn't like it?
We didn't.
I mean, I'm not trying to...
brought you guys in so that we could have some plausible deniability.
Also, again, The Dark Knight had that play with the Joker and anarchy and like who's really the villain in this situation.
It's insane.
Yeah, so...
Ray, what about you, man?
I would say The Dark Knight too. And I also, like, I guess... Like he said, the Holocaust, you're not going to say anything negative about the Holocaust on a movie that bases itself around the Holocaust. Yeah. But with The Dark Knight, we had some perspective, right? Like, so we had previous Batman movies that we can compare it against and previous renditions of the Jokers that we compare it against. And it's by far the best make of a Batman movie that we've seen. Yeah, like, I don't think there's anything that touches it.
Listen, even regular comic book movies, it was one of the best out there.
Yeah.
I think the only thing you could probably put up there with it is the Avengers, and it's a different type of movie. Avengers is just fun. Dark Knight was real. Yeah. That happened.
So we had, like, what, Clooney was there. We had, who else did we have? Val Kilmer we had. And who's that guy skinniest guy in the world? Michael Keaton was the Batman, right?
He was the best Batman until Val Kilmer. I mean, I'm so, oh my God, I really said that.
Christian Bale.
Until Christian Bale.
Okay. Yeah. And but it's not even comparable. I don't think they are.
And did any of us going into that movie think that Heath Ledger was gonna do
man.
Oh, no.
We're all talking about Brokeback Mountain.
He's the one that made the movie great. Heath Ledger made that movie.
But remember, I remember talking to all of us when we heard that Heath Ledger played. We're like, what? Him? You're like, oh, this movie's gonna suck.
So wrong. And
but that's another guy you can't talk shit about now, right? Like, so you said the Holocaust, and this guy died right before the movie came out. And are you gonna do that now?
I'm complimenting that. I thought he was gonna suck.
Yeah, no, he killed.
That's a cool compliment. He's like, hey, I thought you were going to shit the bed. You did pretty good.
And he ended up giving the greatest performance of the Joker in a live action movie. Because, I mean, I still think that Mark Hamill as the animated Joker might be the best Joker.
Agreed.
Fair enough.
Hands down.
Yeah,
Nice way to clean it up. I like that.
in the movie sense though, it's still Heath though, man. Heath did his
Yeah,
thing.
for sure.
B, how's your weekend been, man? Caught any good movies this week?
I actually I'm a huge fan of the DC animated movies.
You always been, man. You always try to put me onto those
Yeah,
DC.
those movies are actually so good.
They are.
So I caught 2 of them this weekend. I actually caught number 1, Teen Titans Go to the Movies, and that was really surprising. I didn't actually want to watch it. I just had nothing better to do, and so like
I got free tickets, so I watched it.
I was like,
I got you.
I was on HBO Go and it was there, and I'm like, well, I really loved the original Teen Titan cartoon that Cartoon Network had for a while. They did it for like 5 seasons, and then they canceled it. It had this huge like anime influence to it, which was really cool, and the story was excellent. And then they brought it back maybe 4 something years ago, really cartoonish. Cartoon Network kind of changed the way they did their cartoons, and they made it to reflect that, and it kind of put me off. But when they made the movie, I was like, oh, it's interesting because they did a lot of jokes about the DC universe and the Marvel universe within the movie. And I was cracking up the entire time. I loved it. It was so funny. They made fun of everything.
Yeah.
And they made it work. It was actually really entertaining. And then I caught yesterday. They just released Justice League versus the Fatal 5.
I never heard of it until you mentioned it to me yesterday.
And it was really cool because what they've been doing with the animated universe lately is they've been making like sequential movies with all their characters. So like they've had this Justice League from the New 52, and then kind of the Batman movies that they've been making, all kind of intertwined with it.
Right.
This is a movie that actually brought it back, animation style, back to the Bruce Timm style of Batman, back when they did Justice League and Justice League Unlimited,
Right.
10 something years ago. So they brought back Kevin Conroy to do Batman. They brought back Wonder Woman's actress. They didn't bring back Superman. They had someone else, but like it was really cool to see that animated style and keep that story going from what they did 10 plus years ago. And it was a good movie. They did some interesting things by having a character with PTSD.
Right.
Being Jessica Cruz, the Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
Which she had PTSD in the comics as well. So it was really interesting to see them bring mental health and mental illnesses to kind of a superhero genre movie.
Yeah.
They also had Starboy, who's from the Legion of Superheroes, and he has his own mental issues, which require medication, which were huge on his memory of. The whole movie was him not having his medication and him forgetting his memory. Of being a superhero, and kind of like the emotional aspect of the movie. Not to give it away, it just came out, but it's just basically him on a journey trying to convince people he's a superhero. When he's constantly letting people down.
Oh wow!
And that was like
That's
a
a different
huge trope.
take.
Yeah, it was a really huge trope.
They've been trying with all these animated movies and even the regular comic book movies to stay away from this formula of good guy versus bad guy.
Yeah.
It's been always trying to change the way that they're written. They always have something about them that makes them different besides just being like special.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
That's why I thought it was really cool about this movie. Especially it had our Trinity. We're really supporting our characters with mental health issues.
Yeah.
So it was Wonder Woman was talking to Jessica Cruz and saying, "Hey, the ring chose you for a reason. You're a hero. Whether you think you're not, the ring chose you. You're more than deserving of it.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see our heroes. The people we look up to who don't have mental health illnesses that are in the comics. And they're supporting, relatively humanistic issues.
Right.
These people who aren't so human.
Since you watch so many of these like animated movies and stuff like that from DC, what would just be your best? Because I know for me, mine is Batman: The Red Hood.
Yep,
I love that
right
one.
there.
Batman: The Mask of the Phantasm. So those are the two that I always go to. Red Hood is ridiculous. It's absolutely insane.
I would actually say that my favorite DC animated movie of all time is Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
Mask of the Phantasm, yeah.
That
pretty
was a
good.
story.
I like Red Hood
man.
just a little bit more, but yeah.
Red Hood's my second.
Yeah, Red Hood was insane.
And
Have you
I
guys
love
caught
Red
any
Hood.
of those like DC animated films?
Yes. I've watched all of
Which one would you say is like one of your favorites or top two?
It's hard. It's always a Batman. It's going to be a Batman. But the one that came out recently, all the ones that you guys just talked about are incredible. But the one that came out recently, which was like totally out of left field conceptually wise, was
Is it
Batman Ninja
Oh, where they made Joker and him ninjas.
Oh,
No, because
yeah,
they went,
I saw
I mean,
that. That
they
was
ended up going
interesting.
back in time. Like, it was very anime,
Mm-hmm.
and just like the look of it. And then at one, have you guys seen it? Am
I
No,
saw it.
I didn't
I
see
loved it all the way until the end when they went all Voltron.
Well, yeah, they did the.
I like what they did there, but I was like, okay, like, you lost me a little bit, but I love it. Especially what they did with the Red Hood
Yeah.
in that movie.
Yes.
That was crazy.
Oh, so then I have to check that out because
Yeah,
I
you
didn't see
definitely.
that.
You know what? Let's table that discussion until like let's like watch that movie and like we can discuss it, because if we give away too much of it, it ruins.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. So we could definitely put that away. But
Well,
Al, have you guys seen any of these DC animated movies or anything?
No.
I did see Teen Titans Go movie, and I'm with you on huge departure from the original Teen Titans.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very interesting if you've ever watched any of the cartoons. There's like an episode in the cartoon where it's like they have one fan,
Yeah.
and the one fan's not really their fan. It's like a fan from the original Teen Titans that
Yeah,
kind
I
of
see
carried
that,
over.
yeah.
So they have like a lot of self-deprecating humor in
Yeah.
the cartoon, which their target audience is a lot younger than the Teen Titans. So I don't know how that influences that target audience mentally.
Yeah.
Like these guys
Yeah.
are just like always down on themselves and say then the other version of themselves is superior. But it's really cool, and I thought I enjoyed that movie a lot. And then the other thing you touched on a lot that you mentioned that actually sparked a thought in my head was like the mental illness and seeing it from a different perspective, because mental illness has been in superhero movies a lot, but they're always as the villain. So it's like, you see it with Carnage, and you see it with the Joker, and you see it with Harvey Dent and his multiple personalities and all this other stuff that you see, but they're never the protagonist. They're always the nemesis, negative, and it has such a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Mental illness, historically in comic books, carries a negative connotation. They are the villains, and to see it in a different aspect, I think is something like a big move forward, especially that you're seeing it. And I didn't even know that existed, so thanks for informing us. But like in the DC universe where it's happening.
You talk about mental illness and protagonists, right? Do any of us really think that Batman is not mentally ill? Like, Bruce Wayne is mentally he's ill. He needs help.
But
So-
just remember,
so
Bruce Wayne is the hidden identity.
Yeah.
Batman is
Okay,
real.
so, whatever, right? That's right there. should
Bruce
show
Wayne is
you
the
that-
mask.
Right?
So I just don't. He's not an Arkham. Everybody in the asylum.
He spends enough time there.
Yeah, he does. But everybody in the
No, but like,
asylum is.
do we not? Do we really not sit here and think that Batman needs to talk? He needs a hug.
He needs to talk to
Man, ain't got
somebody.
time for your hugs.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I guess you. Yeah.
I mean, he suffered real trauma. Like,
He did. He
Yeah, he's
definitely
seen
did.
a lot in his life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely did.
But I mean, just a little bit more on the DC. So you've seen the DC one where it's the crisis on 2 Earths.
Yes.
I think the best line I've ever heard from Batman came out of that movie at the end when he's fighting Owlman.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie was great because they're looking at mirror images of themselves.
Yeah.
Like through a mirror darkly then, And at the end when him and Owlman are fighting it out, right? And when Batman says to Owlman, the difference between you and me is that when you stared into the abyss and the abyss stared back, you blinked.
Oh, I'm gonna get that tattoo
And like,
on my.
right, and like, and that one, I was just like, wow.
Another thing from that movie that like really got me is when Batman had their Flash do the running because he knew he would end up dying.
Exactly.
And the Flash had said, he goes, "Did you know?" And he didn't say anything. It's just, but you knew like Batman did plan that.
Exactly.
He didn't want to lose his camera. Like he set up set up the opposite team's Flash.
But the way that Batman did it, like, yeah, Flash, you're not fast enough to do this.
Yeah.
And Flash was like, oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's like, "Did you know?" He didn't say anything. I was just like, "Dang!" I was like, dang."
No, but if you guys get a chance, definitely check out those DC animated movies, man. They're really well done. And like I said, if I could recommend one out there to people, it's the Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
That was
great. Amazing Batman stories. And if you like the original animated Batman that was on Channel 5 a long time ago, that's definitely picks up from there. So. So
Kevin Conroy doing Batman.
Yeah, Kevin Conroy's the original, man. Just to clear up something from last week, one of the brackets that we did, I messed up one. It should have been Raiders of the Lost Ark because I think I said Last Crusade twice in the podcast there. So just to correct it, it was Raiders of the Lost Ark. and it was versus Mad Max Fury Road. And to be honest with you, it didn't matter because I chose Mad Max, and I would still choose Mad Max. So no big foul on my part there, but definitely that's something I wanted just to get out there to correct the record for last week. And just to get into some of the movie news for this week, you know, there wasn't really too much reported out there. A couple of things that are coming out soon, like horror movie wise. I think they're making another Annabelle. But one thing that I saw that was kind of big, and of course it deals with the MCU, was Angelina Jolie being added on to one of these MCU movies. I think it's called The Eternals.
Yeah.
And just what do you guys think with Angelina Jolie and like Marvel constantly getting these like big time actors to join in the comic book movie realm? You know?
I think at some point every actor in Hollywood that
is
wants
going to
to
do
be,
one.
they'll be in a superhero
Listen,
movie.
man, it's a guaranteed check. and you're gonna do what, like 3?
And some royalties too. Like,
Yeah. Oh man. But do any of y'all know what the Eternals are? I have no idea, but I didn't know what the Guardians of the Galaxy were, and look how that turned out. So,
I mean, the Eternals, how they've been placed in the comics is kind of like, kind of up there with Thanos' race.
yeah.
They're like
so-
immortal almost, right?
Yeah, they're like very.
Is Thanos
old.
an Eternal? Is he?
Technically, yes.
No, one of the Eternals was one of the scenes where they show the power stone being used,
Yeah, the one holding.
and there's a huge
Oh.
figure who's slamming his staff that had the.
That was the Collector when he was showing them what the stones were.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that character that was smashing with the power stone is one of the Eternals.
They're
Oh, wow.
basically old, ancient, powerful beings, you know, in the universe.
And Thanos has a brother that's an Eternal, I think, in the comic books. This is like
think
Fox. And he's like he's a womanizer. He runs around like one of his powers like controlling people's minds, and he just like convinces women to like sleep with him. So he's basically running around the galaxy raping women.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
In the comics,
Yeah.
the Eternals end up holding stones.
Yeah.
So they end
Get
up
outta here.
giving stones.
So
to
basically, this is
Eternals.
one of those like
Yeah.
prequel kind of movies. It's like almost like
It
Captain
can
Marvel,
be.
but even further back.
Yeah.
It may
It
be.
could
Oh
be.
wow,
I mean, that's what I'm assuming it's going to be.
that sounds great.
And that's considered a race of people, I think,
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
in the comic books, the Eternals.
So they're like
That's
the creators of the universe, kind of thing, or just
not
Yeah.
necessarily the
Yeah.
creators, just like it's just like they live somewhere in the universe, and they're a race of people in the universe, and they're just built
Yeah,
different
they're
and
just,
better
you know,
in
ancient.
general than everyone else. They have a lot more
Kind
powers.
of
They're
like they
yeah.
did with that one movie that was the prequel to Alien. You know how they had the
Oh,
big white guy?
Prometheus.
Prometheus, kind of like that. That's how they are in the
Yeah.
sense.
And to put it in perspective,
hope it's
Thanos
not
is like
Prometheus.
an eternal reject, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't look like that. Like they're all like very, I guess, aesthetically pleasing looking.
Yeah.
They're very muscular. They're supposed to be like the perfect beings. I
Well,
feel
they're
like, or
supposed to
something
be-
something akin to perfect beings.
Yeah.
And
when he was
Thanos like
born.
doesn't look like them, but he is an eternal, and it's like, and they get cast away, and it's like
Well,
it's
they're
an
supposed to
interesting.
be an offshoot of humanity, like that are created by the Celestials,
Okay.
right? That an alien race that created everything else as well.
Okay.
So, and they're supposed to be the defenders of Earth, which leads to their battle against the Deviants, which are their evil counterparts, right? So,
Adam Warlock is an eternal too, or
I
no?
believe so.
I don't know.
We can look that.
If he was, they may be changing that because
So
in the
that's
in
what
the
I
universe he
think
hasn't
all
even
of
been
this stuff.
created
So
yet.
that brought up something that I thought about this week. Where's Adam Warlock?
Isn't he in that cocoon thing?
Yeah,
They mentioned
yeah,
it.
they haven't
Uh,
released him yet.
He is at the end of Guardians 2. He's with the Golden People.
Yeah.
They have him in.
I forgot
Throws
their
Golden.
name. of
So they
the-
change kind of his
How-
history,
yeah.
right? Probably his actual story because he had a
they're-
huge influence.
They're really shipping like Marvel as the Captain
Yeah.
Marvel as the savior here.
Yeah. I mean, if you take it back to the comics with the Infinity storyline,
Yeah.
they didn't win. Like it actually ended up with him winning multiple times, and then him becoming the actual entity of the universe. He actually became the entity of the universe, and something had to happen where like
Wait,
in
who
the
became-
Eternals,
who became
Thanos.
Oh,
Thanos.
really?
Like he literally, they didn't win. The heroes didn't win. You know,
Right.
they had to call in like Celestials and all these other people to like help out. Like even Death, who basically seduced Thanos into doing what he did in the comics.
Right.
She's the reason why he did it. He collected
Yeah.
the stones in the gauntlet and killed all the people. She even turned against him. And still lost. Like the heroes never won in the Infinity War comics.
Man.
You know, so that's why I'm interested to see what happens in the movie because they didn't win.
Right.
In
So,
general.
I mean, listen, we're gonna definitely get into an episode of that before the movie plays
Yeah.
on the 25th there for us. but you know, again, with the Eternals movie, I trust what Marvel's doing. They haven't let us down yet. You know, even their okay movies are fantastic. So,
and I think that lends to like with the quality of who they bring in. Like,
yeah, exactly.
that's
like
why
said,
they're
Angelina
going to like an
Jolie.
Angelina. Yeah.
And didn't they get? It wasn't like Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
She played
In Ragnarok. Yeah.
Yeah, hella, right? It's insane, man. And then on some other movie
She
news type.
doing it too. I am gonna put that out there on Front Street.
Wow. Oh man!
Come visit us, Kate Blanchett.
Wait, what happened?
Come visit us, Kate Blanchett.
Oh, do a podcast with us, the interview.
Oh, please, that would be great.
Oh man, we'll try. We'll definitely put out that put that
I mean,
energy
she's
into
been
the
in some
world.
really good movies as well.
Oh,
She's a
absolutely.
phenomenal actress.
Yeah, no, she's great. She's great. And then other kind of news out there. Again, it's all pretty much MCU Avengers kind of thing. The latest thing I'm hearing now in Avengers is the movie's about 3 hours and 4 minutes long, 2 minutes long. I say bring it on.
Don't bother me. That don't bother me.
30 minutes too short. What do you guys? I mean, 3 hours. How many movies have really out there been like 3 hours long? Like I can't remember the last one I watched with 3 hours.
Like Lord of the
Rings, right?
Yeah.
So,
But if the movie,
extended cuts. The regular Lord of the Rings was 2 hours and I think 30 minutes. The
Yeah.
extended cuts went 3.5.
Are you guys ready to sit down for
Godfather
3 hours?
movies?
Oh, the Godfather movies, right?
Did anybody other than Godfather 3, of course? Would anybody complain about sitting through a
No,
sitting through a Godfather?
that's what I was just gonna say. As long as the story is good
Yeah.
and the acting lends to that story, you won't even realize the time is passing.
They have a lot of stuff to tie together, and they have a lot of fronts to film on.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to bring together, you know. And I think there's more than enough content. I think you could theoretically walk away from a movie that long, even being like, I wish they had spent more time on this.
Yeah.
You know, so because of how much they have to tie together, you know.
I wanted to see how long. What's it called? Infinity War was, because I'm telling you right now, I don't even think that it's 2 hours and a half. Infinity War. Did anybody realize that 2.5 hours had passed in that movie?
Nope.
I was watching the movie at Al's place on Friday. We got damn near halfway through and I didn't even realize it.
So
Yeah.
y'all had a watch party?
No, we're actually working on the website.
Yeah.
Working on the website, working on some of the stuff for the podcast there.
And linking
we
them
had
up,
it in the background.
Good job, guys. Your credit to the organization.
Oh man, but listen, we got halfway through the movie and I'm like, holy crap! And then you realize how much time has flown by, and it just flies because the movie's it's just nonstop, keeps going, it's so good. But listen, I'm not opposed to a 3 hour movie time for this movie.
Not at all.
You take as much time as you need to wrap this story up right. Another thing I heard about the movie, tickets are coming out this Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
It's a rumor, but I believe in the rumor. I will be on the ticket site at 7:59 a.m. hitting refresh. I think right now, we getting like 7, 8 tickets? All of us?
I think we'll definitely. There's
7, 8
6 of
tickets.
us here right now. I'm pretty sure we can find 2 people that want
Yeah,
to
man. Those tickets are coming out this week, hopefully. Did any of y'all catch the posters that came out? The black and white posters and the color posters for
Avenge the
Avengers?
Fallen, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How insane is that? And it kind of confirmed, and well, I don't know if it confirmed because I don't believe anything these guys are doing right now, man. They're trying to throw all these things at us so we don't believe certain things. But I think Shuri was in black and white.
Yeah.
He was gone, but Pepper Potts isn't.
Oh, so
No.
a lot of rumors out there. People think that certain things are going to happen. It doesn't look like it's going to happen that way. I thought Shuri was going to help them out to succeed, but Shuri's not there.
Yeah.
Unless they're lying. Maybe they don't know. I don't know. Reed, what you think on the 3 hour long Avengers? You all good for that?
I'll sleep there if I have to. If they give me an intermission and they have food and drinks, I'll be fine. Doesn't matter. 3 hours is perfect.
Are we going out for a steak beforehand? Like we doing this
Oh,
correctly?
That'll knock us right out for that movie. But oh man, I can't wait. Misha, you into those kind of movies? The Marvel Cinematic Universe movies?
Yeah, they've been pretty good.
Yeah?
And on the length, I think that's the trend right now. Series are getting a lot of money pumped into them where you're getting 20-hour movies, basically.
Yeah.
They're still telling it. So, I mean, I'm a fan of the intermission. I don't know if you're going to get that in
Yeah,
Avengers.
probably not
The
gonna get
last
that.
movie I saw that had an intermission was one of those Quentin Tarantino movies, the Hateful Eight.
Mm.
I saw an extended copy of it, and they had an intermission in between that. But other than that, I don't recall the last movie that had an intermission on it.
Pearl Harbor.
Get out of here, bro.
What?
I don't remember
Pearl
that having an
Harbor.
intermission.
Remember that? They had the part 1 and the part 2. like right as I think it was as the plane started coming down.
Yeah.
Was when they split it.
Yeah.
And then you had to come back to see what happened after.
That
I
was
was
a
like,
movie too.
I was like, wow. I had to think about that.
Yeah, I remember that. I
Remember even when it came in on DVD, it was just like part one ended. It was like, all right, I gotta go get the other disc.
Damn, man, there's not too many movies. I think Titanic was pretty long. I don't think it was 3 hours though. But listen, I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure they have a lot to talk about and tell in the movie, and I'm looking forward to it. Al, by any chance, you got us on how many minutes, days to that Avengers?
Oh yeah, we're down to 25 days, 2 hours, 37 minutes, and 10 seconds.
Oh, whoa, 25 days. Oh, and the tickets come out on Tuesday, everybody. So if y'all listening, make sure you get your tickets early, man. Those things are gonna sell out. That movie's gonna go.
Oh, forget it.
Do you think that's gonna hit $2 billion?
Oh, forget it. Right off opening weekend, yeah.
I think it's going to be the newest
The only
highest grossing movie of all time.
The only thing that's
so?
going to hurt it for that is the 3 hour play
because
time.
3 hours they can't show it as much as they
Yeah.
do. I think they lose out on like 6 showings.
They'd have to
altogether
start showing it
from
at like 9 in the morning
But then again, those theaters now they'll put that shit
on 3 screens.
They'll put that movie on in every damn theater in there to play it as much as possible. But yeah, man. I mean, as far as movie news go, that's pretty much all I have. I mean, did any of you guys hear anything out there on the movie end? Or
I thought I heard something today, but I can't remember it.
yeah, I was looking for stuff, man. I'm like,
Oh!
can't just be talking about Marvel.
Movie, yeah. Oh, so it actually came up when we were talking about The Matrix. There is talk of a reboot.
No way.
Of
I've
Matrix?
been hearing about Matrix
Of
4
a Matrix
or
reboot.
reboot
So
for
Michael
Michael
B.
B.
Jordan.
Speaking of the Matrix, you want to talk about movie news? That initially Sandra Bullock was offered the role of Neo.
Will
Sandra
Smith.
Bullock.
I heard Will Smith was
Yeah?
asked to be Neo, but Sandra
Yeah, that I heard. I heard Will Smith.
Yeah,
I'll pull it up. I saw a couple.
They were going to have Sandra Bullock as Neo?
that's insane.
Oh, that would have been
The
interesting.
talk is, I mean, as of a picture that I saw,
Right.
was a reboot with Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, okay. He's
Right.
a really good
This is-
actor.
I mean, it's his time right now.
He's a
This
really
is
good
his-
actor. He's killing it right now.
This is his moment.
Yeah, man.
Yep, here it is on the Huffington Post just two days ago. Producer explains why Sandra Bullock turned down lead role Neo in The Matrix.
Could you see Sandra Bullock as Neo?
Yeah, that's what I like.
I'll see Sandra Bullock any way I can.
Has she done like? I mean, I know she did Speed, but even with there, she was more of the.
I always find her more of like the roms, the
Yeah.
comedy stuff.
Like I couldn't see her in a fight scene. Like
Right? Can you imagine her doing all the stuff that Neo did?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm gonna bring him.
As good of an actress as she is, I'm not
Heath
saying.
Ledger doing the Joker, right?
I guess so. You can't ever deny it until you see it, but at the same time, I just can't picture it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture her doing, I know Kung Fu. You know? I just can't, man.
And so she said she turned the movie down because it just wasn't something for her at the time.
Well, did y'all? I think Will Smith put out a video of why he chose not to do it because he said he heard the story. It's just like, let me get this straight. You're gonna plug something in the back of my head and we're in a computer. Pass. Oh man.
I'm gonna go record "Welcome to Miami."
But do you agree with it being a reboot as opposed to the next? Yeah, a continuation,
I would
like the
rather it be
next.
continuation. I don't want them to redo it all over again.
I mean,
It can't be.
I'm waiting for prequels. Anybody else?
Yeah, a prequel.
How did this
I would rather see prequels of the Matrix as opposed to like a continuation of the
Or like the first Matrix.
They basically come to an accord at the end. So what are we gonna tell? What story are we gonna tell?
I
I
mean,
mean,
it
it becomes
can't
like Star Wars,
be-
the same thing over and over again. Like, the Accords fall apart and they start warring again.
But it can be something like the Animatrix. So
Yeah.
if anyone remembers, the Animatrix
Oh,
was
yeah.
a series of
Side
9 stories that
stories.
all kind of were different universes, but based within the Matrix.
Yeah, but the Oracle also alludes that he was gonna return. When the little girl made the sunset for Neo, she does say he's gonna come back.
I think I would rather do a prelude, but you know what I keep hearing too? I heard a long time ago at least, was that they were going to try to do a Morpheus story.
That would
have been good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to kind of see how Morpheus came to be and, you know.
But what I like about the prequels that they did mention in the movies is that there were several failures before they made a universe that humans actually adapted to it and were willing to accept as reality.
Right.
Like they talk about, hey, like this didn't work the first few times that we tried it, and there were revolutions all the time, and then eventually.
Didn't they say that people thought it was too good? So they didn't
Yeah, it was like
believe
Utopia, and they didn't
Yeah.
believe it, and it was like it
They
ended
needed
up
to
falling
struggle.
apart. Yeah, they needed to have the struggle. They needed to have that quote unquote balance.
Humans.
And
were
like
sick
yeah,
people.
Yeah, but keep in mind that was the power structure saying that it was utopia.
Oh, that's
right?
true.
Their idea of what's
But
perfect.
even a better reason for the prequel and for the explanations, I feel like. I
Yeah,
think
that would be
really,
awesome to
really
see that,
interesting
man.
to see.
That and like I said, if it was a Morpheus thing, it would be cool. But I honestly would like them just to keep going, like saying that everything happened, and now maybe the machines are trying to do it all over again, you know, or maybe renege on the deal there. So, you know, we'll see there.
Speaking about Michael B. Jordan, by the way, he owes us a good Marvel movie.
Oh,
that
after
Fantastic Four was terrible. Everybody agrees.
Yeah,
Wait, he
Okay.
didn't
Brought
give
it
us
back.
Black, he didn't give us Black Panther?
He okay.
He brought it back a little bit.
He brought it
man.
back.
The Josh Tankerton, right?
Honestly, I identify more with his character than I do with T'Challa. Like, he's right. Everything he said in the movie was right.
Okay,
Yeah,
I agree.
man, he
You know.
was insane.
Yeah,
Killmonger.
Is this your kid?
So
What's going on, Auntie?
He's definitely not dead.
When he said that, I was like,
Yes.
that's so off, but perfect.
Hey, auntie.
So he's definitely not dead. Those are the rumors right now?
He's dead.
Dude, I keep thinking that they're bringing him back, and it's because of something that happens in Endgame. Man, I think we went to like these rumors thing on the first episode, and it was just like either they're gonna make things happen so that he didn't have the gauntlet to snap away everybody, or they're gonna do something where it changes the way that the outcome of everything and how everything played out. I don't know how they're gonna explain all this stuff. I'm so amped up for this damn movie.
Thinking of comic books, Nebula's the one that she takes the gauntlet back.
Yeah, the comic books.
And she
couple
undoes
people.
it, right?
Nebula, Doctor Strange does it. Reed Richards ends up doing it. Like it's just
Wait a
everyone
minute, how
keeps
many
trying to
people
undo it. A lot of people keep trying to undo it. Like at one point, it ended with Black Panther just using one of the stones just to go to a universe where like none of this happened.
Oh wow!
He's like, we'll just move down the road. Pick up the city, move down the road, try again.
Oh my gosh, man. Well, I mean, that's pretty much it for the movie news for this last week. And every week we'll try to get you some of the latest movie news. Anything that's big that happens, we'll try to bring up and talk about on these podcasts. But something that happened this week, three of us got together, me, Sanj, and Brandon. We got together and we saw Us this week. And I gotta say, I don't want to be like that, man. I guess I was expecting so much because I love Get Out. I thought it was great. I got the concept right away. And I got what was, the point of the movie. So I went into this movie almost playing detective, like, all right, what is he trying to tell me? What is he saying to me? And it was good. It was a good movie because it kept me entertained. I was watching the movie. I was in it. And when I saw the twist at the end, I was like, all right, I saw that twist coming.
Yeah, it was really predictable.
So I figured maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something that I didn't get or put together. And I got home, did a couple, Googles and YouTube things, and I still came away with the movie was good. It was all right.
So what did you come up with?
Well, the first of all, the movie Us is really a play on United States. So it's a movie about the United States and how they're seen. The doppelgangers, it could be a play on how we see ourselves. It was like the haves and the have-nots, pretty much. And the have-nots rising.
Yeah.
To now their turn to shine kind of thing. But I didn't really get that in the movie, so that's why it didn't really hit me like that. But, if I had to judge the movie, like, I really don't understand ratings sometimes with people with like a 4.5.
Yeah.
I don't know what a 4.5 is to you. 5 stars, you give it 2.5. Okay, I don't know what that means either. So like my kind of rating is like either I tell you guys don't bother watching it, wait for it to come on home release because you don't have to see it in the theaters, or don't rush to see it, or you should go see it and you need to see this, right? So if I had to choose between like those 5 different things, for me personally, it'll be, don't rush to see it, but you should still see it because it's a cool movie. You
That's
also
a
want
sixth option.
you want to support
Jordan
different
Peele.
movies, you know what I mean? And Jordan Peele himself, but just movies that are different than the normal horror / movies, these suspense movies. So I would see it, but I wouldn't rush to see it. It's not that
Not opening night type of
yeah,
thing.
I expected
like
more.
Don't wait online.
Sanj, what was your take? Like, what did you think about the movie when you watched it?
I wanted to, I feel like I kept expecting to be scared, and I wanted to be scared.
You took it as a horror movie, right?
Yeah,
I said it was a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a couple scenes though.
Right, and then with Get Out, right? It wasn't a traditional horror movie in the sense, and people were like even debating, is it even a horror movie? I was like scared in Get Out because of the subject matter that they were dealing with.
Right.
It's being being colored in a white space, right? And like that's relatable for for someone like me, where I grew the type of neighborhood I grew up in, and then I go to school, and then it's culture shock.
Yeah.
And then so I'm just like, this is how I kind of felt,
You can relate to the character,
right? And learning how to navigate, something very, very.
It's like
different.
a cultural horror.
Right. Exactly. So like you could relate to what was going on. I kept like going through the whole movie, and I'm just like, I'm waiting for that reveal of the big horror, the big threat, the big thing, the big scary big. As Brandon likes to say, the big bad.
The big bad.
The big bad, right? And it just wasn't there. All it was is that we're looking into a mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the twist. I will say I like the twist, even though it was dead obvious.
Right.
Dead obvious. I'm like 5 minutes in.
And the second you saw it, you knew.
Yeah,
Like, okay,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I do like the twist. I like how the twist played itself out. I mean, we can't say too much right now because we got a couple people in the room that haven't seen it and they want to go see it. So I'm not gonna.
Absolutely, man.
And we don't want to spoil it for you guys out there either. But yeah, I thought it was remember, this is his second movie.
Yeah.
I thought as far as second movies go,
For him himself, it's
like,
good.
I think
good.
he's still doing very well, and I look forward to more stuff.
Yeah, I
from
look
him,
forward to
like,
his next movie. Absolutely.
Like I haven't gotten I haven't gotten a chance to watch The Twilight Zone yet.
I think that comes out on Monday.
But even though that's not a movie, we're not going to talk about it too much here. That's a different podcast. But I remember I used to love watching The Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone had a lot of stuff that scared me. And it wasn't necessarily always like big bad ghosts and demons and stuff like that. It was conceptual and like stuff that
it was what society was doing.
Right.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. I think Netflix has a show like that, Black Mirror.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When you see stuff like that, like I was expecting something along that lines, like, and then like there's a lot of Black Mirror episodes when it comes to, you're like, wow, and you're like you're like scared, like this could actually happen.
Social media episode.
Yeah. I mean, they have a few nice episodes as well. I really like the San Junipero episode of Black Mirror, but again, that's another podcast.
But if you had to how do you rate movies? Do you rate movies in a kind of like a number sense, star sense, or anything like that, or would you want to use like the way that I kind of judge it? Like, what would you tell people out there like what you thought of the movie? Would you tell them to go see it?
I would say go see it because it's very different than anything else out there.
Right.
You're getting a very different look than anything else out there. I feel like a lot of movies that come out follow a predetermined. They're like cookie cutter. They have a template that they follow, right? Just like in the music industry as well. They follow a template pretty much with pop music as far as how long is 16 bars. There has to be a bridge, blah 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 blah, and
that's what your sound needs to be right now.
And that's what it needs to be.
Yeah.
Whereas and then when you look at things like even the Bohemian Rhapsody that came out, when you see kind of like their argument with the music industry, right? And it's like, no, this thing is 6 minutes long. That's way too long for a song. Why? Why is that way too long for a song? And that becomes like this epic, like classic song, and because it's nothing like you've ever heard. It's like a rock opera, which I mean, you got plenty of rock opera out there that people that have been very good at it and done very well with it, like Meatloaf, that have done rock opera. But Bohemian Rhapsody, like Queen doing rock opera, was very different than, say, Meatloaf doing rock opera and like Jim Steinman and the stuff that they do. But I just like to see something different. Things that I look for. Did it make me think?
Yeah.
What did it look like? And did it have what was the story? was it unique in some way? And I don't necessarily look for all those elements. There's sometimes when I just want to be
just entertained for the
entertained,
moment.
and
Yeah.
like it can be goofy and like stupid, and it doesn't have to be heavy or have some sort of like bigger meaning or anything.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't always have to be groundbreaking cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what did I like it? And would I see it again? Yeah, I liked it. And I would see it again.
I personally would see it again after reading all the what people think some of the meanings or the underlying thoughts of the movie. And there's something I'm gonna hit you off with at the end that's gonna blow your mind. Probably.
I will say that I liked Lupita Nyong'o's
she killed it.
performance though.
She's the one that
great.
got me into this whole movie the entire time. I mean, I was
And
like
her
I said, I was entertained throughout the whole thing.
Right, and her playing the doppelgangers.
Oh my god!
Right, and then when you learn the twist, knowing how she played it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Both parts.
Both parts, yeah.
How she played it.
And then you're like, wow, like
Yeah.
it's her performance. I would say it set.
So
You set her performance apart from the movie. Like take that out of it, and it was incredible.
What about you, B? What did you think of the movie when you watched it?
Truthfully, I think I set myself up because I was expecting
Same thing.
some kind of message or underlying tone.
But
or
is that our
underlying
fault?
thing.
Is that our fault going into the movie looking for that message? What if he didn't make that movie for that?
You know that I will say that I take that on myself because
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
assuming
Me too.
because of Get Out,
Yeah.
I was assuming it was gonna be something like that. Even though he stated in interviews, I just made a horror movie. There's just really nothing behind
he
it. I
didn't.
just made this.
No,
I
he
was
didn't.
like, no, there's something.
There's something in there,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's something
yeah.
there. So
I mean, and there were funny parts too. Like the dad, like his character was hilarious.
Oh, yeah,
like with
yeah,
the boat, like
his character was perfect. It was great.
Yeah.
I was entertained. I think the movie really did entertain me.
Yeah.
I think I just spent a lot of time analyzing.
Yeah,
Me
it's-
too.
yeah.
That's the problem.
I feel like instead of waiting for something to happen, I could have just like sat there and like dumbed myself down and just like
Yeah.
enjoyed it for what it was.
It was just like
And
it was
I
like
would have had a better experience.
what Al said with Aquaman. It was just like I was really entertained by Aquaman, but I was expecting so much more
Absolutely,
because of that. They made more money than Justice League on opening. They did this and that. I was just like, so what's this all about?
The guy talks to fish.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah.
What were you expecting?
So I was like, what's
And a
going
whale
on
every
here?
once in a while.
Yeah.
So I went into it, same thing with this movie. I went into it assuming like this got to be like the biggest thing since sliced bread here because of what it was accomplishing. So I mean, I really entertained by the movie. I would say I was a little let down because I predicted the twist so quickly.
Yeah.
You can kind of see it from a mile away. I think I got more interested in the movie once I started reading on theories.
Yes.
Made me want to rewatch and kind of see if I.
So what theories?
caught things.
What theories? Like, just give us a couple theories.
So I'm gonna give you one theory without blowing it for the other guys who haven't seen the movie yet. There's more than one tethered.
I'm gonna tell you that's already shot down. It's not a thing.
I'm telling you it is a thing though.
It's not a thing. It's not a
I'm
thing.
telling you it's a thing, and then when Al or Ree or Misha sees the
Alright.
movie,
The time doesn't make sense for that.
not does only the time not make sense for it. There's clues throughout the movie about it, and I
Shut down.
believe it.
Shut down.
I believe it. There's a bigger twist that we didn't catch.
So
all right. So one of the big things in the movie, like, can we go there, like with the rabbits?
that's actually what I wanted to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
It's my theory with the rabbits. I mean, it's not really so much a spoiler. When the movie starts, you see a bunch of rabbits in a cage, right? At the end of the movie, you see the rabbits not in cages. That's the most I'm going to say about that. The theory I had seen regarding that was the introduction of free will.
Free will.
And that was kind of like a whole concept of the movie was these tethered were just looking to have lives, And I don't want to give away the twist because the twist kind of comes into it. But it was just like, what happens when you kind of interject or put something that has had free will in the air and to introduce it to an area where people didn't know they can be free.
Changes everything.
The concept.
And the concept of free will, the concept of you have everything we've never had it though.
Yeah.
So how do we get that?
You don't know that you don't have until you
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that kind of goes with the bunnies being in cages and then at the end of the movie not. You know, so what happens when you introduce
That's
the concept of free will?
It's kind of like when I went to college. I didn't know I was poor. Until I got to be, I was walking down Palm Ave in front of the management school, and the cars that were lined up, and I think in this order was there was an Aston Martin, there was a Lamborghini, there was a Ferrari, there was a Lotus, and these were students. These cars belonged to students at the school, and I'm like, I am at the wrong place.
Can I ask a few questions for someone from the perspective of someone who hasn't seen the movie?
Go for it, man.
So you're saying that, and this is all really good insight for people who haven't seen the movie, that don't expect a Get Out from this movie.
No.
So for his filmmaking repertoire, better, worse, or does it make him more expansive now? Does he, because he reaches out of Get Out?
Expansive. I would say this is, you know, you can see now he can make more than one type of movie.
Okay.
You know, I think if you're looking for a Get Out, it's not.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a different experience, it is.
And then a lot of people are familiar specifically with his comedic background, and now he has 2 movies that has nothing to do with comedy.
But
is anybody else waiting for a comedy from him?
No.
No?
Not right now.
I don't want one.
Okay.
Right, because after seeing Get Out, after seeing this movie, and after I see what he does with Twilight Zone, I want to see what's in his mind.
Okay.
I feel like he's trying
Like
to be
we've seen the kind of comedy that they can do,
Yeah.
right? Him and Key, right?
Keegan Allen.
Yeah. And we've seen that. Like now I want to see what else he can do. Like the best way I can describe it is like Kobe. When Kobe came into the league, right? You could see he was gonna be something special, like really and be up there in the conversation of where does he fit in the all-time greats, right? But he wasn't there in his first season, right? But you could see flashes of that brilliance.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
You see, there's something
And you
gonna
can
come
see
down the road.
it's gonna come together, and then when it finally came together, like the dominance that Kobe was on the court, right? He was basically the second coming of Mike, right? That's how I see Jordan Peele as a filmmaker.
You know what? It
right
scares
now.
me though. He kind of reminds me of how Shyamalan was in the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, Shyamalan hit us hard in the first with the Sixth Sense, and then
Then
he had
Unbreakable.
Signs. Signs was starting to go down a little bit, but Signs was still
But
good.
I think Shyamalan kept trying to like capture the same lightning in the same bottle.
True.
And
true.
repackage it. Like I feel like he was
Yeah.
trying to do that, and that's why he fizzled out. He didn't expand, right?
Mhm.
Whereas Jordan Peele, he's doing something different. It has the same kind of flavor. It fits into the same kind of category, but it's different, right?
I like the thinking out of the box. That's
Yes.
just awesome. It's just really great to see something like that.
So these 2 movies completely not comparable? Like
I don't think so. I think they're two different. Two different.
So you don't rate
stories.
them on the same scale?
No, because
Okay.
because Get Out had a distinct
was a
racial
message.
component
Okay.
to it,
Yeah.
an issue of race,
All right.
and comfort in certain spaces.
Yeah, this one had nothing to do with race at all.
I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it was the main characters was an all-black family,
Mhm.
right? To me, that was the only statement on race in the
Gotcha.
movie. Other than that, none of the story to me really said was anything.
Does it play into the storyline at all?
I don't think so.
Like,
I didn't
like,
see
could you
that.
swap them out for a white family and the
Pretty
movie
much,
still play
yeah.
out the
And
same way?
I mean, yeah. Maybe not the music, but
To be honest, the music that's the theme of the entire movie. I mean, to be generally honest, if you did swap the family out with the white family, you would still have the same tone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, getting
But
back
then
to
it
your
wouldn't
rating
be a
system
Jordan
question.
Peele
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So
We try not to go there too much. We try to stay away from that part of it for this podcast.
Yeah.
what would you rate it? Be like, how do you rate movies? What do? You rate like?
I basically go on a, if I, did I like it?
Yeah.
Number one, if I liked it, definitely go see it. Was I entertained by it? Then you can go see it. Or did I just flat out didn't like it?
Right.
I'm very blunt with, it was alright. It was alright means I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
But dude, check it out. Or I was really entertained. If I'm entertained or I like it, go see it.
I will say this for us. One question I would have liked to have answered, and maybe I missed it, was they were explaining that at some point they learned how to recreate people, but they didn't learn how to recreate the soul. So that explains why they're tethered, right? Because they're basically sharing the same soul, right?
Correct.
They never really answered what was the purpose for creating a copy in the first place.
Right. They just said it was a government program.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
that was it.
Do you know something? That
No,
you were saying?
no.
The way, I mean,
No.
He was like about to. You look like you're about to
don't
drop.
look at me like that.
No,
unless you
you're
have an
about to
answer.
drop knowledge
You know,
on me right now.
There was
like,
I had thought about the same thing too. Was just like, what was the point of the tether? You know,
and I think if that question was answered in it, I think I could have got a lot more out
but
of it.
that's actually my whole thing is that's basically the horror movie trope. Is a lot of these movies they make a plot and there's really no rhyme or reason
That's just
for
what
the
happened,
majority of it.
kind
That's
thing.
just this is what it is.
This is what happened, and now
You know,
dealing
just
with
like the
results of
whole
it kind of
the
thing.
whole part of it. I mean, everyone knows this at this point. Like the was it the hold hands across America? You know, like what was the whole point of that? Just because that's what we want. That's what we're doing. That's our statement that we're making. You know, so like a lot of the horror movies, and just like he had stated himself, he's like, there's no rhyme or reason. And just this is the plot. This is what I'm going for, and that's what it's gonna be.
You know what? I think there's more to it than that, man. Because he
See, you want there to be more to
no,
it.
man. Because the story is, man. The story is when you dive deep into what he's trying to say is.
What is he trying to say?
You
Oh,
gotta be saying something. You know what I mean? Because like, just the whole.
You want him to be saying something.
You know what? Because of Get Out, yes, I do want him to be saying something. And to be honest with you, I think he really is trying to say something. I just don't know exactly what that was. That's why I was searching.
Are you trying to squeeze him in a box though? That's kind of the thing where I feel like what we're trying to do is you're trying to typecast him as a director. Like those are the type of movies that he's gonna make.
Yeah.
And is that
He's just trying to make movies.
Should that be the expectation for him? I don't know if that's fair.
Yeah.
But on the rating scale, so I rate my pockets matter to me more than anything.
Right.
So I say, do I pay full price for this movie, or do I catch a matinee,
Yeah.
or do I wait for it to come home? Because that's the way. That's my rating
Or
scale.
do I wait
So-
for Hoff to buy the Blu-ray?
Yeah.
And go up from Hoff.
I will definitely buy the Blu-ray.
Blu-ray.
Yeah, so I'm in for free.
I don't let go of physical media.
Yeah. So this is a Friday night showing, or is this a Tuesday afternoon?
Is that Tuesday?
Or is it a
11
red
a.m.?
box?
Tuesday 11?
Dude, it's like in between, man. It's so hard.
I mean,
So if there's not a new release out that week, pay full price.
Yeah, if it's a slow week in the movie theaters and you got nothing else to see, yeah, I would
Pay
go
full
see
price.
it.
You don't need a
Because-
discounted ticket to see this.
Because I tell you what, we left the theaters and we were throwing out life rafts and we're throwing out the what's that circle thing that they throw out?
The life preserver.
Life preservers. We were throwing it out to Jordan Peele. Like, come on, I know we liked it somewhere, but we couldn't fully commit to being like, yeah, it was awesome. It was good. It was cool. But I got to tell you, after seeing and reading and hearing about the theories out there, it did make me want to give it a second look to see if I saw some of the things. Because, like I said, the thing about there being a second tether that we didn't see, I'm telling you, there's a lot of things to it, man.
So now I'm going to ask you a question.
All right, Hoff. So, sorry.
Go for it.
Where were they? Where would they be?
That's gonna have to be
What?
spoiler.
The next
spoiler
basement
one.
down? Is there a next basement down?
No,
Like,
man.
You're reaching, bro. You're reaching.
Are you paying full price twice?
I'm not paying full price twice.
Okay.
That's not
This
full
is a
price.
lot. That's fine.
Full price thing. No. Al, you got any questions for us about the movie or anything like that?
None. You guys kind of touched on everything.
Yeah,
It's
without
just
trying to like really
throwing out a lot.
throw
Yeah.
out all the stuff on it because we want y'all to enjoy it just like we did when we watched it.
But does it leave too many open questions? That's the
Yeah,
only thing.
feel
like
it did leave too many. I would have loved to have that rabbit
But
question
so
answered.
if you knew that this was a series and there were going to be sequels, would you be more satisfied?
Yes.
Okay.
I could see this as a good beginning to something.
Right, because we want more.
Yeah.
You know
But
what I'm
not like
saying?
The Purge.
No.
No.
Okay.
But although I will watch the Purge movies and just like it's hack 'em up.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I like the concept of the Purge movie.
All right, man. So I mean, to all our podcasters and YouTubers that are listening to us right now, basically the gist of it is we tell you go see the movie, enjoy it, have fun.
Don't expect it to be Get Out, though.
Yeah, don't go with too high expectations and you'll completely enjoy it. It's a good ride.
I'm not
It's
saying
definitely
don't go
a
with
good ride.
high expectations. Don't expect it to be Get Out. Don't expect it to be the same thing. Don't expect it to fit into a box of what, like Reality was saying,
Yeah.
of what you expect Jordan Peele to put out. Just
So if you go there and forget that it's a Jordan Peele movie, you'll have a great time.
You'll be
Yeah.
entertained.
If you
Yeah.
disconnect Jordan Peele from the movie, it was a good movie.
no, if you just disconnected from Get Out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, don't try to put him in a box. It's a Jordan Peele movie. We don't know what that means yet because this is only his second movie. That can mean a bunch of things. Mm-hmm. So maybe a Jordan Peele movie means it's going to be a movie like something you've never seen before, or a concept that you've never seen before, and you never know. He might miss on a few, but you're going to get something new. Yeah. You're going to get an attempt at something that hasn't been done.
I'm interested to see where he goes from here.
Definitely. I'm definitely interested into the next movie that he makes. Absolutely. And then since we saw Us, I mean, it kind of leads me to my next topic here, which is the horror movie genre itself. Now, I know for horror movies, I really don't see those movies with you guys. I know I've seen a couple horror movies with Brandon. Mm-hmm. Horror movies is kind of something I watch alone, to be honest with you, in my house on the Blu-ray, because my wife wants nothing to do with horror movies. She refuses to see any horror movies. So I watch them by myself with headphones, and I scare the shit out of myself. So I saw The Conjuring Part 1, and I had to pause it a couple times. But I don't. I guess it's a funny question for me because I've known you guys for so long, but I don't know if you guys watch horror movies.
Oh yeah.
I do.
So I watch horror movies.
I know Al watches horror movies with the wife. I know that.
Oh yeah, The Conjuring, The Sinisters, the Annabelles.
Have there been really? So I don't know. I feel like we all grew up in the same era of horror movies where you had like 17 different movies of the same bad guy over and over again. You had Nightmare on Elm Street, you had Friday the 13th, you had Halloween, you had Chucky, and we had those things. And I'm like, I don't know if I've gotten those. And it might be because I was a little kid, and everything scared me. But I don't get those feelings from these movies anymore. Outside of maybe like The Conjuring and what was the Ring? Kind of had that feeling where it was like I felt like almost like scared when I was a little kid all over again. Yeah. And a lot of these movies don't evoke that same type of.
I think
out of me. I don't know.
The Conjuring, like with me, with a wife, the kids, we're all into like the Annabelle, the Conjuring, all of them. And I think what does it for us is since we know that it kind of, in a way, it's funny. It's kind of like with the same thing with the MCU, since you know it's all interconnected.
Right.
We enjoy looking for those little ties, like
make it connected to.
Yeah. So like when you're watching the Annabelle, so when you're watching the Annabelle and you see the reference to the Nun. And then you're like, ooh, and then now it makes you want to watch the Nun. It made us really want to go watch the Nun.
Yeah.
To the point where we saw it in the movie theater. And usually we wait for it to come home so we can watch it in the dark by ourselves. Yeah. They don't have to be embarrassed about jumping and screaming. But the Nun, we couldn't wait. We went that opening weekend. We saw it in the theater. Yeah.
The family horror movie.
Yeah. So and like I said, and then afterwards, kind of like where we talk about the MCU, we leave that movie theater and we're like, oh, did you see when they made this reference? They were referring to this, or that tells you why in this movie that character did that or had that reaction. So they're.
Cool. I think I have a new family to watch horror movies.
Yeah, there you go.
Start going with you.
So speaking of, you got Pet Sematary coming out then.
That's what I'm saying. Pet Sematary coming out.
What's this? The Haunting of Sharon Tate is a movie coming out apparently. Anybody know anything about that? Is that in that universe or is that completely separate?
I have no idea. Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, what I'm waiting for is It Part 2.
It Part 2, man.
That is.
That's when they're grown, right?
I'm excited, but I'm not at the same time because of the basis of what It Part 2 usually means is completely different from what It Part 1 usually is.
Really? What
so do I remember It Part 2 correctly? Is when they're adults?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and they're all still alive, even though they died, right?
They leave.
And they leave, and they
leave the town, and they have to come back.
All right. Yep.
But wait, in the book and in the old movie, isn't the story really like intertwined, jumping back and forth between time?
In the movie, the old movie that they put on TV, it does have the first part as them as kids, and then the second part is them as adults. It carries the same way. In the book, it does follow that format, but it does in the part 1 not a lot, but sometimes. Goes back, like it starts off with them being older and talking about, dairy. This is what happened when they're young. So it opens up with the Georgie thing, but it talks about this is what happens when we were younger. And then part 2 is like, this is us, we have to go back. Yeah. So like, I love It series when the TV show, the TV movie was on, that scared the life out of me, part 1. Part 2 kind of got me when it had the giant spider and everything. But they could only do that because of the budget, but if you read the book, the part 2 is like very spacey with aliens. Like there's a giant turtle involved.
Oh, God.
You know, and like that's why like it took away the fear elements and the suspense elements and kind of made like it was kind of horror for a little bit, and then it got like sci-fi.
I got you.
You know, so like I
think this one needs to stay in the horror.
I feel like it needs to stay in the horror because like that got me really excited. But the part 2, like I wanted to stay that way. And from what I'm hearing about it, it sounds like it's gonna stay that way and kind of hold it. And maybe kind of throw some lore in there. I mean, the first movie they had a turtle that they threw into the pond, you know, and that was kind of like a reference to the.
And wasn't that the Lego turtle thing a turtle too?
Yeah, you know, to that mother turtle, I think it was called. But I'm interested. I like it's horror, you know. So as long as I see the horror, I was like, I'm gonna love it.
Wait, so you're into horror movies?
I love horror movies.
Get out of here! See, I didn't even know that. You're my brother. That's crazy. What's like your favorite horror movie?
My favorite horror movie is the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh wow! Okay.
Because it was like the one that was
that
actually
one freaked
scary.
The hell out of me. Yeah.
That was a crazy concept. Tied with that is the first Chucky movie. Because that movie scared the life out of me. I couldn't be home alone for a while, and then I remember there was one time.
That's how you know it did the thing.
That they were supporting it, the newest movie that he made on Raw on wrestling, and they had him on the wrestling for like a quick interview, and I was screaming. I couldn't handle it.
Oh my God.
What I don't like about horror movies is when they make continuations. And they know that the story's going to be similar, so they try and add an element, and the element's usually comedy. Yeah. And I don't like that. I mean, that's what they did to Nightmare on Elm Street. After the second one, Freddy became this sarcastic, narcissistic guy, you know, and it was just like, it was more comedy than scare. Yeah. And then it was like, all right, like now it's just going to be a fun movie, you know, but where the first one was, this is a scary movie.
Yeah, the first one was nuts,
you know?
Man.
And then they did with Scream too, right? With Scream. Scream with the first one was suspense and horror, and then it got comedic towards the last one.
They did the same thing with Chucky too.
Yeah,
Chucky, they all turned into comedies after the
Jason,
second one.
You know, Jason. What was it? Was it Friday? Sorry, what was it? Halloween H2O, right?
Yeah,
it was in space and all that. I was like, what?
That was pretty terrible.
Sounds you into horror movies, man?
I love horror movies.
No, dude, I have no clue that you like horror.
Well, it's like one of those things. I'll watch them when I'm alone.
Yeah.
You know, it's like turn out the lights. I want to be scared, and it's like it's just so hard to do.
Did you see The Conjuring?
I did not.
I heard Conjuring 1 and 2 are pretty crazy.
I have more homework.
Insidious 2 was one of my favorites. Insidious 2.
Insidious. Oh yeah.
Conjuring 1 was really good. Conjuring 2 was hit or miss because you knew it was trying to open it up to more things like The Nun and Annabelle. But Insidious 2, that one's the one that really got me.
Yeah. You into horror movies?
I like horror movies for sure, yeah.
Dude, can I ask y'all, for all y'all that like horror movies, and I love them, how come I'm watching them by myself?
Because we all want to watch it by ourselves. We all want to be scared. We don't want to be scared together. You want to be scared on your own.
I always watch them at home. I rarely go to the movie theaters to watch them. It's something that...
That's insane.
Get on Netflix or rent a movie.
I don't want to be scared with other people. I want to turn the movie on at 2:30 a.m. and be afraid to go to sleep at 4.
Yeah. You don't want to scream in a movie theater.
Yeah.
And like have people looking at you.
You gotta be like a real man there. You gotta have your arms folded the whole time. You just gotta sit there.
And the thing is, the worst thing is like you scream at the part where it's like, you know, they always put those jump scares. Those jump scares or the suspense moments that aren't really suspense moments. It's like someone walking into the room.
Yeah.
And then you're yelling. It's like someone just opened the door and it creaked and it's like, ah! And it's like, oh, it's the mom coming in to drop off cookies. It's like, no, you look like an idiot now. In that theater with
You talk about moments like those, and going back to how you were talking about M. Night Shyamalan. I remember. What was the movie with the aliens?
Signs.
Yeah.
Right?
Are we talking about the scene where the alien walked across?
I remember watching that, and like the whole movie, like you're waiting for the reveal, and all the alien did was walk across. And like when I saw that, I was scared. Yeah. Like I was like, "Oh shit!" Like no, I was legit.
I gotta tell you, that is one of my all-time favorite movie moments in the theater
because he accomplished it. Like he did the movie so well. Like he built that tension that when it was just a flash, and got
the music for that scene too was intense.
And and he got you. Right?
I think the scariest moment for me, M. Night Shyamalan, anytime, was during The Sixth Sense, when the ghost mom was in the kitchen, when the one I think she committed suicide. She had all the knife cuts.
Oh no.
You know. That was like the scariest scene for me because
yeah.
he was in the tent and then the girl that threw up was in the tent too. But it was like him going to the kitchen and he was like, "Mom," and like she was like washing dishes or whatever, and then she turned around. That freaked me out so bad. I was like, "Oh God."
Oh my God.
But again, even like The Sixth Sense, right?
Yeah.
It was a horror movie and like the reveal at the end and everything. Like you kind of thought like, wait, did like the whole movie like is he dead?
And you rewatched that movie, kid?
And then you rewatch it like.
You
Yo.
got shot the first minute. You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh wait, he did die."
Yeah.
Oh
But then
man.
it's like,
immediately.
at the end of the movie, what was it? It was a love story. Him and his wife, and like the scene, like when he's actually talking to his wife, and she's like, "Well, why did you leave me?" And blah blah. And I'm just like, "All right, now."
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Misha, you into horror movies?
Nah.
Nah.
So now,
Listen, it's crazy.
the Saw movies, horror movies, right?
Oh.
The Saw movies.
Yeah, man.
They lost me around
Suspense.
4.
But that's like it's like the same thing. Like the first one was horror suspense, and then
I
same
think-
story.
I'll tell you this:
The Final Destination, I feel like they're
Same
Final
very similar.
Destination was
yeah.
one of my favorites,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Final Destination was
Would
awesome.
you put that in horror? I don't know if I put like it's definitely suspense,
But
but
like sci-fi suspense.
yeah.
the Saw that I liked best was the second one.
When they linked it together?
When at the end the lights turned on, and you're like, "Yo,
And then put the
you're
music.
in the room!" I will get scared by things that could possibly happen,
Yeah.
right? Because if it's too far outside the realm
Yeah, then you start
of possibility, it's like, all right, it's gory, but it's not realistic. Like the Saw movies, like how it was, like, wow, like somebody could actually do this to you.
Yeah.
You know,
You know what I don't like when horror movies got into the what did they call it? It was it not murder porn? What did they call it? When it was just like gore, just for no reason.
I know
like
what you're
snuff
talking about,
movies.
yeah.
kinda.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
like they're like chopping off someone's fingers in front of the camera, you know, like just overly done blood and like just ridiculously. That Saw turned into that. Saw turned into those movies where every death scene was like very gruesome, and to me, I was like, I'm not watching that.
Okay,
This
so
is
then,
too much.
Hostel, horror movie.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
That's one of the best. Not the best. That's
Like
one
that
of the,
scared- like that
that's
scared
the
me.
example of what I was just talking
Like
about.
I'm not getting on a train and going to like remote corners of Europe.
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean?
When
Like
they did the thing
I'm
with
not
the
going to
fingernails?
Bratislava. I mean, even when we were in Europe last year, like the four of us,
Dude, I thought about that.
I'm like going down corners. I'm I'm not going anywhere by myself in the nighttime.
I seen Hostel.
I seen Hostel.
They made a sequel.
Yeah, man. So,
They will disappear me.
so you know what, man? We gotta make a horror movie. You know, a trip one time where I'm just
Yeah.
going with Al's family.
There you go.
Yeah. Everybody likes to be scared together.
No, I hear you.
And I don't know if any of y'all checked it out on Netflix. That House on Haunted Hill. No,
Yeah,
or
that's
the haunting
good.
of Hill House. That's what
Haunting
it
of
is.
Hill House. Yeah.
The haunting
Yeah.
of Hill House
That's
is
good.
pretty
That
good.
was good.
Yeah, they do it. It's not gory. There's nothing like that. They,
Yeah.
they get you once or twice with like the jump scene and
Right.
everything.
But
otherwise,
the story's very.
It's just
suspenseful.
you being in the scene and thinking, if that was me,
What would you do? What
yeah, how would I react? Yeah. So they get you with that, and it's just the story itself pulling you in.
I think the greatest episode was the one in the funeral home. That
Yeah.
back and forth
Oh,
the
yeah.
camera. That was a great episode. If anyone, you have to watch Haunting at Hill House just for that episode. It's great.
Oh man, so I gotta go put that on my list.
Yeah.
It's funny because every time we talk about something, I hear Sanjay going, "I got homework to do." So now you guys are giving me homework. I mean that's pretty much it with the horror movie genre. But when these horror movies come out, we'll try to see those too. But if everybody's used to seeing them on their own, we'll let them be. You know?
I'm with it.
Yeah, man. But it's just so crazy to me, man. Like I said, we've been friends basically my entire life, and this is the first time I find out that you guys watch all these horror movies.
We haven't made a pact yet. That's why. So that you don't talk about what happens in the horror movie stays in the horror movie, and then I think everybody's cool.
Everybody must wear brown pants.
He's got the right idea.
But I do like the concept. Like we saw the trailer for Pet Cemetery when we saw Us, so
Yeah.
I want to see Pet Cemetery because of the
Listen,
subject
I like the
matter.
original one, but I heard this one's gonna be a more original take on the book, and at the same time,
Steve, like, look, I've seen a lot of movies based around Stephen King's horror, and they've always been good.
And they changed. It was a little boy in the first one, I think, and it's a little girl this time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But you know what? I've been seeing and hearing a lot because I watch a lot of reviews on YouTube and I watch a lot of movie stuff, and I keep hearing like this horror renaissance. Like they're actually making the story good. It's not just someone's killing.
Yeah.
It's like an actual good story. So I'm glad that it's changing to be, you know, like all these movies now. I feel like they're taking their time making a good story rather than just doing whatever it is. Like comic book movies are not just hero versus bad guy. There's a good story to it. Horror movies now are doing the same. Would you put us in a horror movie catalog?
Us?
Yeah. No, right?
That's not hard.
That's not hard.
I think
more
it's a
suspense.
psychological.
Yeah, psychological too.
Thriller type
Yeah.
movie.
I agree.
Get Out. That's horror.
Sounds like you have a personal thing. He's like, that was me.
He's still sitting in the water.
As you know, she didn't put any spoons in our coffee cups. Like, took them all out of the room.
I refused to go
Those
to
spoons
the
house.
Oh man! And then I guess
I think a lot of people can relate to the feeling you get from Get Out.
Only rubber spoons in Sanjay's house. No clinking.
We have kids.
So to get out of this horror genre real quick, the last topic I have for us today, man, is coming up this week. I know we didn't go to the opening premiere. It was like a week ago. But Shazam. And it's coming out this Thursday, this Friday. Anybody trying to see that?
Yeah, let's go.
I'll see it.
Yeah, I
Let's
think
go.
we're going to see
Thursday
it.
night?
Yeah, it's this Thursday
The
night.
battle of the Captain Marvels this year, huh?
Right.
Oh, man.
But is Shazam Superman, pretty much?
A campy
He's
version.
the magic Superman.
The magic Superman. He's a kid that's mad to get some magical powers and basically has every power.
Someone who can go against Superman because of the fact that he's magic, and Superman is one of his weaknesses is magic. That's basically his whole concept.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
Gotcha.
been hearing nothing but good things on that. All the reviews, everything online, everybody who's seen it has been like just giving rave reviews. And part of the DCEU, or is the DCEU even still a thing, or is it like different now?
I don't
Miller's
know.
out as the Flash, so
Oh, he is out?
he's out.
Oh, Ezra Miller?
Ezra Miller's out.
So he's out. You
literally,
got.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
rebranding and kind of going with the universe and kind of seeing if they're gonna keep doing solo movies for a while until they can figure out how to do group stuff again. But I mean, once they do group stuff again, it's gonna be all different people.
But if you're recasting like 3 out of the 5, what do you?
Right, because Batman.
Because Wonder Woman's still there and Aquaman is still there, but you got rid of Flash, Batman, and Superman.
Superman's done?
Yeah,
Well, they
he's
said
got.
they wanted to focus on doing a Supergirl thing.
And a Robin movie I thought was in the works too.
The Nightwing movie, yeah.
Nightwing,
That's been out for
How
a
do you
while.
guys feel about the DCEU? Do you think that is doing its thing? Like,
No,
I know
it's not.
Don't compare
They
it to the
started off-
MCU, but
No,
I'm
I
just saying,
I don't think you can talk about the DC universe without talking about the Marvel universe, because DC and Marvel that's what it's always been. Are you a DC guy or a Marvel guy? Batman, Superman, or Spider-Man, Wolverine? There was a time when people didn't think comic book movies could make money, right? They were just like
Now they
kiddie
can,
movies.
yeah.
They're comical. They're campy, right? And because they didn't have the technology to do the special effects the way that you would need to like say, hey, this is really good, right? And then, but Marvel, somebody sat down and plotted out 20 years of movies,
Yeah.
right? And they said, we're going to start with Iron Man, bring in Captain America. And they really built a universe.
Off that plan.
Right. And like they laid a solid foundation, right? And they're not trading on the names of their big characters, right? Iron Man wasn't a big name
Nope.
in the Marvel universe, right? But they built on Iron Man, and they said, let's go get an actor, right? That will knock this out of the park. Get Robert Downey Jr. to play Iron Man, and people are like, wow, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then let's introduce a bigger character, Captain America, right? And then let's start.
Not even a bigger character, because even him, he wasn't a big
Cap,
deal.
Cap is a big deal.
He's a
I
big
would
deal.
say Cap is,
But in the comic book era, it was all about
No.
the X-Men. It was
Yeah.
about Spider-Man.
right, exactly. So now, and they're building off, and they build a solid
Yeah.
foundation with story, with casting, to make you invest.
And they
right?
learned. So in the Incredible Hulk, they tried that movie a few times, and that movie did not.
It
serve.
never
It
worked.
never worked. And the storyline, and then they just added him as a character, and it works so well when you make these Avenger movies and these movies where he plays a role and he plays one of the important roles, but it's like you can't basically. And I don't see the same thing from like DC. I feel like they just keep reiterating and trying and trying and trying.
Let's keep doing Batman.
Let's keep doing Batman. Yeah,
the DC movies trade on the name, the reputation of the character.
Yeah.
Right. They don't. I really don't think they really do well with casting. Right. They look for a pretty face or the face that
or something.
a big
when
name
Ben
or a face
Affleck
that
was cast as Batman, I was like,
yeah, I remember you calling me and telling me about that one.
I was like, I don't really see it. I was like,
he did
he's
good
old,
though,
you know?
man.
He did good, but now you see the problem with the longevity of things because now you have, you made this older Batman, which you could have made anyone look older to do the job, but you have a guy who's actually physically a lot older, to do this role, and then it's like now you're like, oh well, we could have used a younger Batman.
Yeah. Well, that's what I thought they were gonna do because if this was you introducing the Justice League and everything, and you knew that's what you were building up to, how do you put an old Batman?
Like you're telling me to my face that this Batman is almost 50, if not already 50. Like you said it
with a young Superman.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
Exactly.
Is he like 10 years away from Batman Beyond at this point? Like, in his 60s, he's like Batman Beyond, right?
They had a bad Batman.
Yeah.
I thought when a good jumping off point for them since they had a lot of ground to make up on the Marvel universe, right? Because regardless of anything,
But did they have to make it up?
Because
they
did have to.
They were going to be compared to it. So now when the Christopher Nolan Batman version of Batman, right? I thought okay, and then they made Superman in a universe that looked just like that, right? So you kind of feel like, all right, these two are existing in the same universe, and then it comes out that the Batman is completely separate.
That's his own thing.
It's its own thing, but they're both movies made by started out with Christopher Nolan. He had more to do with Batman, right? But the look of the Superman movies, like Man of Steel, it looked like they were in the same universe. So like, bring that Batman. If you had brought that Batman,
well, they tried. From what I was just gonna say, they tried. They reached out to Christian Bale. A lot of money. They offered him a lot of money to come on. He said no. That's when they went to this guy.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that they.
But they changed. But then they went in a completely different direction with Batman. Even if they had to recast Batman, you could have brought that Batman from.
You should have brought Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Well, you could have even done something like that, like whatever. But then they go in a whole different direction, which it derails it. It's continuity. So whereas Marvel built something and they kept the continuity, and at the end of the movie you have a scene from the next one, and there's a lot of stuff going on in a lot of different places. Yeah. But it's all part of the continuity, and the DC universe never felt like it had. It's parts that don't fit.
But that's the problem. I think if they had done it like not to say like Marvel did it, because they want to do their own thing. But if they had introduced these characters slowly and then built up to Justice League, I think it would have been.
They rushed to Justice League too much.
Doing it, and Avengers is almost over in its peak, right?
Yeah.
So then, you could have had a Justice League movie in 2025.
They didn't have to do it right now, but they're trying to capitalize on what's
going on right now.
What's going on right now? Yeah. Which when they should have just sat back and said, "Look, let's start building our own universe from scratch. Follow the template."
Right.
Yeah.
They're trying to capitalize.
And they've got a lot of story. Like the Joker comes in, the Joker gets taken out. The Joker's a character that just exists.
Right. Creating chaos.
Creating chaos. And there's so much Superman story. There's so much Justice League story. But build it up. Let's get the Martian Manhunter story. Let's get all these other little stories coming up. Bring in let's get introduced to some of the DC characters that are less well known that could possibly create excitement. Like one of the characters that I liked a lot, which is a very short-lived comic series, was Darkhawk, right? And
I remember Darkhawk.
Exactly. Yeah. So you could have started with a character like that. Mm-hmm. Something that people haven't seen before. Give them something fresh.
That's also a good point. Like, not only have they not seen it, their expectation for a movie like that is not the same as an expectation for a movie like Batman.
Yeah.
So when you start off with Iron Man and when you start off with Captain America, Thor, like you don't have the Spider-Man expectation.
We knew who they were.
Yeah, but you don't have that.
The mass didn't know Thor and Captain America.
Captain America's.
See him, you know he is.
Yeah, but it still wasn't. You don't have that Spider-Man level, Wolverine level, like expectation, X-Men level expectation for these movies. So it gives them a lot more leeway, a lot more freedom to develop these characters in a way that are more amenable to like the general audience.
And while you're doing that, you're also developing the universe that everything exists in, so that when you bring in the big story, it comes into a well-developed universe.
Yeah.
And so DC, they're trading on the names of the characters that you're gonna come to see a Batman movie because it's Batman, and they will sucker me every single time.
Val Kilmer.
And I got suckered because I watched that movie, right? And I was excited.
Val
Kilmer thanks you for watching
That
that movie.
was exactly right. But they're not developing. They're just throwing in their big characters, their big names, and so people are going to come and they're going to pay their money.
Yeah.
Right. It's the difference between a salesman that understands longevity and getting a client, and a salesman that just wants to make as many sales as possible. That salesman that understands making a client may make a smaller sale today, but they'll have a client for life coming back to buy the car from them, the insurance from them, the whatever. And every time they need something, they're going to come back to that one guy because there's the trust. It's been built.
Listen, we saw Captain Marvel and Guardians of the Galaxy first day because of why?
Because of the universe that they built.
We trust them.
Right.
We trust what they're doing.
We wanted to see, what are you adding on to the universe? Because we needed to know. There was something in the movie that we needed to know to have a greater, to add to our understanding of what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
So everybody agrees that Marvel right now has a superior universe cinematically
Oh, yeah.
over DC.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Now, the same, but they're in a position now that the DC universe was in, where fans are clamoring, right? Like, so Disney just bought Fox, so now it's do you introduce X-Men or any of the mutants into this universe? How do you introduce them? They've already made big movies in Fox.
We had this conversation like a couple weeks ago, where you can't just throw the mutants in there.
But people want it.
They can't just be there now.
You're gonna have to change their origin.
Keep them as a separate universe. I'd rather them have maybe a couple bad guys, find a way to make them in this MCU real world, but keep the X-Men separate. You have to do two separate franchises going, and just you can intertwine maybe some people. But
there's some comic book guys that want to see. There were X-Men that were part of the Avengers.
I think more,
Never missing. There's that relationship that you have now. You have the Scarlet Witch, and she's Magneto's daughter, and they had to kind of change that up for the movies. And then same thing with Quicksilver. And then do you explore that whole Magneto thing? And there's a House of M, all these different movies.
I feel like they should start with the House of M.
And it's stuff that involve the whole universe, and it's like people want to see that. People who have been reading these comic books, and these are relatively recent comic books. This is not comic books that are 30, 35, 40 years old. These are 15-year-old comic books, that are still fresh in a lot of people's fans' minds.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? They already did the...
I think a lot of people would be satisfied if Wolverine just showed up.
Yeah, but then do you bring back... so in their universe, they're way ahead than we are. So you got the Old Man Logan story already kind of happening in the Fox universe.
You're saying that universe is gone.
That's done after Dark
Let's say
Phoenix.
that doesn't exist anymore. Once
But
once this
Endgame
Dark
can
Phoenix
actually
is
be
done.
their doorway into that.
It could be
Because
That's one of
if
the
they
theories
do they do time travel and everything, and depending on how far back they go to affect their time travel, you could have one of those butterfly effects from that change result in now the mutants having been brought into existence and still have their origin story of they were born that way.
Gotcha.
So there could have been something that they do in their time travel in the past that now allows for these mutants to
I feel like they're gonna do some kind
generate.
of universe thing where there's another universe in which the mutants do exist and these heroes don't, and these universes are gonna meld or open somehow through either the quantum realm or something like that.
The multiverse or
if anyone
whatever.
saw Ant-Man and the Wasp, there's a scene in the movie once they go into the quantum realm, when he goes to get Janet, there's this quick moment, I think I sent you the quote, that Janet says, this place changes you, and she goes, it's not like it adapts, she goes, it's evolution.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very X-Men line, okay. And then as they're leaving, there's this quick pan that you see of the quantum realm, and it looks like there's a city in the background.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just you showed me something that looks just like a city. So, that I feel like that's opening up to, we're going to have something happen involving the quantum realm. They always said that the quantum realm was going to be their kind of gateway into new things. That's what they said with Ant-Man 1. And then they said, if you look closely in Ant-Man and the Wasp, you'll see something else, that we're maybe going in a different direction here. So I'm like, where are we going? And that caught me because it was a very X-Men line.
I got you.
You know, they're like, no, we didn't. She goes, I didn't have to adapt. It was like I had to evolve, and I was like, oh. I was like, oh.
But bringing it back to like the DCEU, there, what do you expect for Shazam? I keep doing that, man. Shazam.
He jumps off the building.
Imagine he jumps off the building, says Shazam, and nothing happens.
Movie's over in like 10 seconds. He dies. And then
He goes, say my name, Shazam. No,
dead.
For Shazam, there. I mean, because it does look like they're not. They're kind of like making their own separate movies, but they're kind of.
It's like they're trying to do a standalone.
Kind of together, because they'll mention things about Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. They'll say things, or they'll show something. Because I think in the commercials they show the kid holding one of the batarangs.
There was a Batman toy, and
then the kid's holding like a Superman newspaper clipping. So they're connecting it, but then they're keeping it kind of separate. Because even in Aquaman weirded me out a little bit because they made it seem like that was the first time they met, Amber Heard and Jason Momoa.
Yeah,
it almost like they forgot that they were in Justice League, but you know, whatever. But
that movie supposed to take place before Justice League.
No, it's after.
After.
Really?
Yeah,
because
they even referenced him fighting Steppenwolf and everything. So
okay.
yeah.
All right.
So I mean, I'm looking forward to it because of all the reviews. If it wasn't for all the reviews being so positive, I probably wouldn't be looking forward to it so much.
Yeah,
because I don't even know the character like that. I know the outfit, but I don't know the character.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never really a big Captain Marvel. I'm gonna say it, Captain Marvel fan. Before this whole name change to Shazam. Shazam. I wasn't really a big fan of him. Like, you know, I thought the concept was interesting. Was taking a boy, you know, a little kid, and making him a superhero, you know, by saying the same phrase. Yeah. And then I honestly, I feel like the best thing about Shazam and Captain Marvel is the Black Adam. You know, so that the fact that this movie, from what I know, doesn't have it.
It's supposed to be The Rock, right?
Then like I was like, then I don't really mind because I thought the Black Adam was one of the coolest villains next to Sinestro.
But now, in Black Adam, are they gonna have Shazam as well?
They when they talked
because
about
they're talking about like it's their own movie.
They were keeping them separate for a while. And I was just like, but why?
But then who's the guy that then? Because if Black Adam is the bad guy, he's the villain.
He's his villain.
But are they gonna do like a Venom, like what they did with Venom, where Venom was the bad guy, but he turned out to be the good guy in his standalone?
But The Rock has been casted as Black Adam for over 7 years now.
And the next movie,
but then who goes after
versus Shazam, and they're bringing in Shaq. Nobody heard that from me? That's the thing, right?
Wait, did anyone hear that theory about like there's like a deja vu theory, like where there was another Earth or another universe, and it kind of like we all mended together where we thought there was a movie called Shazam with Sinbad.
Yeah,
and it's going to be Kazam
there
with...
are people who think that, just like the
I was one of those people. I'm just like, no, I've seen this movie with Sinbad. Like, I've seen it. Like, what are you talking? I've seen this movie.
Saj, you know the character Shazam?
Not much.
Not much, right?
Not much.
Neither.
His name is Captain Marvel.
Maybe that's probably
they had to change his name.
They had to change his name because Marvel had the copyright.
Al, did you ever hear about the character from before?
Billy Batson and
I never knew him as Captain Marvel though. Like I always knew it as Shazam and that it was a boy and this and that.
So he was Captain Marvel first, but Marvel had attained. There was different comic book companies, and this opposite comic company, I think it was Fawcett Comics, had made Captain Marvel.
Right.
And I think they were owned by DC, but Marvel wanted, obviously, to have a superhero named after them. So they had their own Marvel, you know, Captain Marvel or Captain Marvel. And then I believe it was like in the 70s when Marvel officially had the copyright to the name Captain Marvel. And so DC, they couldn't put the title on the comic book. Mm-hmm. So it was like Billy Batson and the Wizard Shazam or something, but it would always have Shazam.
Right.
But in the comic, he was always Captain Marvel.
And it's probably one of those things where everybody started calling him Shazam.
And so it became one of those things because the title of the comic was Shazam, people just started recognizing him as Shazam. And then, like, even in one of the old Justice League cartoons, he was Captain Marvel. Oh, the captain's here, this and that. And so, like, I think just over time it became people just really know him because of the comic as Shazam. So when the new 52 started,
right,
he was named Shazam.
Alright.
So that's what was funny. Is like this year was like the Captain Marvels versus each other because you have Captain Marvel and
so happen to
Shazam,
come out at the same time.
Yeah, come out the same year. You know, that was a funny coincidence.
Alright, man. So I mean, it looks like we'll probably try to get into that this Thursday, and we'll probably have a review for it on the next podcast. There, should be cool. And I mean, I think for now, that's pretty much all we have for today. And we just want to thank everyone for listening to the podcast. We could always find us on Instagram at The Real Fan Review, on YouTube, we're The Real Fan Review Podcast, on Twitter at The Real Fan. I think it's just @ Real Fan, REEL_fan. And you can find us on Facebook. And once we'll put this on iTunes, you can look us up. Again, please subscribe, like, leave a comment, email us, get in contact with us, because we're hoping that one day we'll have enough content or questions from the fans out there that we'll be able to go over some of those questions and answer them live. So we're all working on that, and we just want to thank you guys for listening. For today's show, again, we have myself, Hav, we got Sanj,
Hello.
we got Ree,
Hey.
we got Al,
What's going on?
we got Misha,
Yeah.
and we got B. And again, we're just friends talking movies with our friends on the podcast. We'll see you guys next time.
Good night.